What's up, YouTube? It's your girl Dominique coming back with you with another video. This is kind of like part two. It's like four, but part two of my social work journey. In this video, I'll be discussing more about my professional work experience as a social worker. So if you watch the first video where it's my social work journey or my school social work journey, what it was like. So this will be part two, kind of like after getting your MSW and all of that and what my experience was like. So I am recording this video. I just got off work not too long ago. I wanted to just record, get it out the way, because once I take a shower, your girl is in a t-shirt and underwear for the rest of the day, and it'll be weird to record a video in my underwear for y'all to see. So you get what you get, right? So of course, since I'm in the military, of course we wear uniforms. I was roughing it up today. It was hot AF outside today, and I didn't wear any makeup. Usually I wear makeup to wear because I like to, you know, just spice it up a little bit, make myself kind of stand out, right? But you know what? There are days where I'm like, F it, I'm just gonna go like this. I'm 30 years old. I still have acne, as you all can see. It's been something I struggled with since I was about 10, 11 years old. I just live with it. I've been to countless dermatologists, and I haven't had that treatment that kind of helped get rid of the acne. It's more like a biological component, so it is what it is. And y'all have never seen me record with my glasses either, so these glasses are new. I like them a lot. Okay, so let's get into today's video. So after getting my MSW degree, so I got that in May 2017, your girl was on a hunt for jobs, right? That is the goal. Once you get your degree, what kind of jobs are you gonna get? So I already made the decision once I graduated from USC, I was gonna move back to Virginia because the social work salaries in South Carolina were just a little bit disrespectful in my opinion, especially starting out. So I wanted to make more, right? So I moved back to Virginia. I was comfortable there, but I didn't move back to my hometown area. But I'll get into that in a second. I went on 5 job interviews. One was at an outpatient mental health service agency. It was for profit, I want to say, because it wasn't ran by the city or the state. It was ran by this LPC. It was her agency that she started from the ground up. So I want to say it was for profit. And I got offered that job. It was for, I don't remember the exact title. It wasn't like social worker. It was like behavior health something. And my role was to do basically in-home for children, right? So in-home therapy for children, of course, their family as well. Basically, it's a family systems approach. And the reason why I didn't take that job was the interview to me was a little bit unprofessional, and the salary was not comfortable in my opinion. And I just didn't get good juju from this specific agency, so I crossed that one out. My second job interview was at a mental health facility by a city in Virginia, and it was like for emergency services crisis clinician. And I did not get offered that job, and I totally bombed that interview, y'all. I was not prepared whatsoever for this job interview. So it wasn't surprise me I didn't get offered the job. Third one was at another city-ran mental health services agency, and that was for their PAC team. I forgot what the PMPAC stand for. It's been a long day, but Assertive Community Treatment Program is basically what it is. What the heck does the P stand for? I forgot. It is what it is. And I did really good in that interview, but I did not get offered that job either. The other one was at a hospital, inpatient, it was kind of like an either or situation. You can either work with adults inpatient psych or children inpatient psych. So I interviewed, and to me it went really well, but I just never heard back from them. Not even like a yay, of course, or a nay. I just never heard back from them, and I reached out and crickets in the background. So I didn't get offered that job. And then I also interviewed at a children's hospital, but I got offered the job, but there was a hiring freeze going on at the time just due to budget concerns. It was like a hiring freeze. I don't know if it was due to budget related stuff. Yeah, I don't know if it was due to budget related stuff. So even though I was offered the job, your girl needed money. So that one was on pause. And then I interviewed at Virginia's #1 hospital at the time, so University of Virginia Health System, for a med-surg social worker, and I got offered that job, and that's the job I ultimately took. So your girl ended up moving to Charlottesville, Virginia, and I love Charlottesville. Looking back, oh my goodness, I miss it so much. It was a time. It was working at UVA. It was a great way for a young professional, especially if you're single, to get to, to make new connections and network. Surprisingly, like, Charlottesville was the place for that. So it was an awesome time, y'all. I learned so much being a social worker on the hospital basis, because a lot of it is discharge planning, but you want to ensure that whoever you're discharging is considered a safe discharge, right? Because the hospital, believe it or not, they're liable for discharges. So if they discharge a patient and they know it was going to be an unsafe discharge, they can be held accountable for that, right? Hospitals wanted to also avoid 30-day readmissions. So again, as a social worker, you want to ensure all your discharges that you're doing, they're going to be safe, or safe enough, I should say, right? Because ultimately, especially working with adults, because I work with adults, they make the ultimate decisions of what they want to do with their lives, right? Unless you don't have capacity or competency. So discharge planning in the hospital and med-surg. So you see anybody in med-surg, right? So it ranged from complicated diabetes. I saw a lot of psych patients too, who just need to be medically cleared as well. A lot of older geriatric folks too, or a lot of ground level falls. Help! I've fallen, I can't get up. I shouldn't laugh. But anyways, just various medical issues that come to med-surg. So my job as the social worker, of course, I do their psychosocial assessments. Hey, where do you live? Who do you live with? What kind of resources do you have? What kind of supports do you have? Can you walk without a wheelchair, walker, or cane? Blah, blah, blah. Just a full-blown psychosocial. What your mental health history looks like. Do you have mental health history? Let's do a PHQ-9. Let's do a GAD-7. Oh my goodness, your PHQ-9 score is very high. What's going on? So yeah, it was good. It was good for the first year. The first years where I felt, comfortable being able to be in this sort of job role, because my typical patient caseload was about 25, I want to say. And then I did a lot of cross coverage with the ICU, because the ICU social worker, she was interesting. She wasn't there a lot of the time. So providing that cross coverage for her unit. And then also too, when I worked in the hospital, I dealt with a lot of deaths. I didn't realize it at the time, because when you're like in it, you think it's just the norm, but there were just a lot of deaths, a lot of goals of care discussions. I sat in a room with a patient and their family while he was actively dying. And I don't know if it was a peaceful death, because you can hear him moan and stuff, but it was interesting. Looking back, I didn't realize I dealt with death and dying that much until just reflecting. So a lot of that, like I said, when you're working in a med-surg unit of a hospital, you're gonna get everybody and anybody. It's not like you're in the stroke unit, or you're in the burn unit. This is like literally a rainbow of different kind of people on different ends of the spectrum here. So it was interesting. A lot of social needs for sure. Again, as a social worker, you're called to address those social needs. They can range from this person's homeless, but they need SNF level care, but they don't have insurance. What can we do, right? Or hey, this person is discharging. They were here for alcohol detox. Again, what can we get them connected with the next level of care to address their alcohol use? So again, it's a very good job for somebody who is fresh out of grad school. Even for those not fresh out of grad school, who's kind of been in the social work game for a minute, that could be their dream job, is to be a hospital social worker. I know for me personally, that's not my dream job. Obviously, my dream job is to be a green suitor, being a social worker. So I miss it though. When I was in at UVA, that's where I got a good chunk of my clinical hours for my licensure too. So it was a really good experience. So concurrently, while I worked at UVA, I also worked at another hospital doing mental health evaluations in their ER. So I got that job, I want to say maybe 6 months, 6 or 7 months after I started working for UVA. So as a mental health clinician in the ER, so my role was whenever a patient would come through the ER, I was to do the mental health evaluation to see if they need to be inpatient, they can discharge outpatient, or if I recommend inpatient and they are going against that, then starting the commitment process too. So that job was very, very clinical. You're using your clinical decision-making skills, of course, and putting a diagnosis in their chart or in their note as well. So again, it was an array of sunshine of people. I worked all kinds of different shifts. I worked like the morning shifts, the evening shifts, the overnight shifts as well. Sometimes when I worked at UVA, I also would go home, sleep for a few hours, and then work a midnight to 9 a.m. shift. It was ridiculous at the time, but I was a hustler back then in my 20s. I would say like most of the population I saw in the ER, again, it was a range of people. I saw children, I saw teenagers, I saw adults, I saw older adults, I saw bipolar, I saw schizophrenia, I saw depression, I saw suicidal gestures, suicidal behavior, failed suicide attempt. I saw it all. I would say the only diagnoses I haven't really touched was probably the class of dissociative disorders. But otherwise, that was a really good experience for somebody to want to gain those clinical skills and clinical decision-making skills. Because when you're working in the ER, especially with ER doctors or physician assistants, nurse practitioners, I mean, their main goal is to see kind of what's wrong with you medically. If it's truly a psych issue, they're not going to touch that. They're going to give that to the mental health person to address. So oftentimes, the patient will come in, the doctor would medically clear them, and then I see them for the evaluation and to see what the appropriate disposition would be. Then I staff it with the doctor because, again, whenever a patient discharges from the hospital, the doctor is assuming responsibility for that patient because at the end of the day, it's the doctor that signs off on the discharge note. So I'll staff with the doctor. I would say, hey, this is my recommendation for discharge. And I would say 99% of the time, the doctor gives me the thumbs up and discharges the patient or supports my recommendation to keep them inpatient or start the commitment process. So that was a good time as well. Again, it was very fast paced in the ER. It's very fast paced. So if you want to get your feet wet, be in a fast paced environment, want the time to go by fast, definitely working in the hospital ER is the place to do that. What else can I say about working in the ER? Other than it was one of the most clinical social work roles you can have in the mental health sector. So I did that for a few years. I did it on the PRN basis, but mostly I worked Saturdays and Sundays. And then also too, especially when I was trying to buy my first house, I picked up shifts during the week as well. So I was at UVA for 2 years, and then I actually moved back to my hometown area, like the Hampton Roads area, Virginia, and I got the job at the Children's Hospital. It wasn't the same position I originally interviewed for after I graduated with my MSW, but it's the same agency. And I worked in their diabetes clinic. So that was a fun time too. No, I'm lying to y'all. It was not a fun time. That job was more so of a placeholder because what my original plans were after I get my LCSW, I'm just gonna move out of the state of Virginia. I'm gonna move to Texas and start a new life. But then shit went down at UVA and I needed to get away from Charlottesville. It just became toxic for me. Yeah. without getting too much detail, it became really toxic at one point, and I just needed a reset and go somewhere that's familiar and comfortable. So I moved back to my hometown area. I didn't like move back in with my parents or anything. I maintained my own place of residence. So the children's hospital job was more so of a placeholder because my intent was to finish my hours, because at that point I just needed like 3 months worth of supervision hours for my clinical licensure, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna find something else. So I got that job in like late 2019. I started in October. I started in September, early October. It was one of those two in 2019. So I only had like 3 months left of supervision, which I did finish on time like I planned. And then I was gonna take my clinical licensure exam, and then I was gonna be out the way, right? But y'all, remind you, we're going to 2019 to 2020. Y'all know what happened in 2020? Yes, that's when COVID actually became a pandemic. So my plans were put on hold. So I was stuck at the diabetes center, and it wasn't a horrible job. It was just not very clinical. It was boring. It wasn't challenging. I would say I don't think I liked it because it wasn't challenging enough. I hate when people refer to social workers as resource finders. Anybody can Google shit on the internet, right? It doesn't take a rocket science to Google our resources. Anybody can do that. Social workers can do so much more. And I felt like I was just more so of a resource finder. I was more so the person to call if you need a Medicaid cab. I was the person that handed out gift cards. Like, I felt purposeless there. I felt like I have a master's degree. I'm getting my independent clinical licensure for my respective field, and y'all had me trying to call for Medicaid cabs? Really? Anybody can do that. So again, the reason why I didn't like that job is it wasn't challenging. So I got licensed May 2020, and I was there for the whole summer of COVID. I was very thankful. They didn't furlough us, so I'm very blessed. I wasn't furloughed, money wasn't issued, I didn't take any pay cuts or anything. I was good for COVID. Of course, we still had to go to in person for work, because again, it's a hospital. I was working on the inpatient basis and outpatient, and it's endocrine, and it's the diabetes center. So diabetes don't stop. Just because COVID's here doesn't mean diabetes is going to stop being diagnosed in children. So we had to come into work. So yeah, May 2020 I got licensed, and then I interviewed for this outpatient job based out of a family medicine practice for a LCSW position, and that's basically to provide just basic outpatient mental health therapy to their patients. I want to say I got that job offered in September. I want to say I interviewed in August. I got offered the position in September, and I started in December, because my last day at the children's hospital was like Black Friday, something like that. And so I did that job for a year. And mind you, while I'm doing like this children's hospital job and this new outpatient job, I still maintained working in the ER because, the ER job I did for the mental health crisis position was under a large healthcare system in Virginia. So when I moved back to the Hampton Roads area, it was still under that same healthcare system. I just worked for, of course, different hospitals doing that kind of work. So anyways, I still maintain that sort of work even when I moved back to Hampton Roads, and even while working at the children's hospital and this new outpatient job. So anyways, let's get back to the outpatient job. So the outpatient job was, again, basic mental health therapy to family medicine patients. And that job was okay at first. However, as a clinician, I was seeing anybody. I did not have a specified population I was seeing. So I was seeing children, teenagers, adults, and older adults too. And again, the diagnoses range from bipolar disorder, major depression disorder, adjustment disorder, oppositional defiant disorder. It was a whole range of folks. And on top of that, I was also seeing EAP folks, so employee assistant programs. I think that's what EAP stands for, because this healthcare system also had their own insurance. I don't know how to explain it to y'all without getting into a rabbit hole. Just know I was in outpatient mental health therapy Monday through Friday from 0800 to, I think my last patient for the day was at like 15:30. And it was just back-to-back sessions. So I remember this very clearly. First session, 08 to 08:45. Next session, 08:45 to 9:30. Next session, 9:30 to 10:45, and so on. Lunch was from 12 to 1300. It was very exhausting. I told this company I cannot maintain this sort of schedule because they wanted me to see, and I have, saw up to like 11 people a day. And people are like, how do you do your notes? You do them during the session. There's no other time you can do all these notes and be able to leave on time, right? And it was just so exhausting, not only the workload, but also the patient load as well, because the patient load was, it was during COVID, so people were very high on their mental health needs. Some didn't really have mental health needs, they just needed someone to vent to, and I wouldn't say that's the best place. Therapy is the best place to vent because you're not really getting anything out of it. Neither is the not good use of a therapist. That's just my own personal opinion. Like, I had a lady just vent to me about her storage unit. I can't help with that. She literally spent like an hour discussing her storage unit, and it was very painful, very painful. But that's what I mean by there's certain issues that doesn't constitute as you need to see a mental health therapist. So that was just an example. And then it just got to the point where I'm not gonna lie, some of the folks were just mean. They're kind of mean and very entitled of your time as a therapist, and I just did not roll with that. So on top of that, on top of this workload, I'm getting burned out. And then January of 2022 was when I got word that my commissioning came through, and I quit that mental health job the next month in like February. So I worked there from December 2020 to February 2022. So a little good over a year. And it's a big no-no in the therapy world to do this, but I just gave my 2 weeks notice. I didn't even get like a month's notice. Some folks didn't even know I left. I was severely burnt out. It was either I gotta put myself first or put the job first. One of the two. One of them has to come before the other. There's no even keel here. So I put myself first. So I gave my 2 weeks notice. I quit, but that doesn't mean my commissioning is coming through anytime soon, because it takes a good while to get your military commission, right? Once you get word that you've been selected, it's not like the next day or so you're gonna start. So that's how I got into travel social work. And I'm not gonna explain travel social work because you can scroll down and you'll see my travel social work blog as well. So that's kind of my social work journey after my graduating from my MSW program. So I've never been employed. Your girl has always had a check coming through. From the time I graduated my MSW to my first job working at UVA, it was maybe like a month and a half lapse where I was just searching for a job. So it wasn't even that long, because I started UVA July 2017, and then I left September 2019. And then I went to the Children's Hospital from like October 2019 to like this November 2020. And then from like December 2020 to February 2022 is when I did the outpatient work. So within the course of all of that, from starting at UVA until leaving the outpatient job, I maintained employment, also doing mental health evals in the ER. So I've always been booked, I've always been busy, but I'm very blessed where my social work career has taken me, where it has gone. I've gotten valuable experience from all of those employers, regardless if I was happy or not. It was still experience, it was still valuable to some degree, and it still got me that next job opportunity. I knew from the get-go none of those jobs were my dream job. The ultimate dream job was to be a military social worker, and here we are, folks. So I'm blessed. I really am. What I wanted since I was during like my second to last year of getting my undergraduate degree, it took about a good I got commissioned in September 2022, so I started college 2011, so a good 11 years. It took me a good 11 years to finally get to that ultimate dream job. And just because I'm in my dream job doesn't mean I'm going to stop having long-term goals, because I feel like having goals sets a person up for success, kind of like what's that next thing. Because once you completed all your goals, right, you're at the top of the mountain at this point, you're kind of at that what now kind of state. So you have to develop some new goals. They may not be professional goals, they may be personal life goals. So my professional goals are still exist. They're still going to grow, especially with being in the military, especially with promotion wise and whatnot. So I still have goals, but I also have my personal goals as well. I want to be married one day. I just need a guy. I need someone to fulfill that. I also want to be a parent too, so I want to be a mom. So yeah, I have my professional goals, I have my personal goals. So I would say everything's at an okay spot right now. I wouldn't say like this is the happiest I've ever been. I don't believe like happy is a sustainable emotion to have. However, I'm at an okay spot in my life too. I own my own house, I own my own car, I have stable employment, I'm happy with my employment. Again, I'm not using happy. I'm content with my employment. It's what I want. It's where I want to be. I'm not going to quit anytime soon. Plus, I can't quit because I'm under a contract too. Alright, so that's it for today's video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. Give this video a like, give it a thumbs up. And again, I'm taking a social media cleanse actually, so you can still find me on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. Periodically, I'll check my messages and I'll be happy to answer any sort of additional questions you may have about your own social work journey. Alright, y'all take care.